How's it going, guys? This is Jeff here with 5 Minute Murder. We're going to do another killer from our game, Killer's the Card Game. I'm going to shuffle these up right here. We're going to draw somebody, and we're going to talk about them for 5 minutes. If you look on the table here, if you've been following along with us, we've actually got some new little props here, courtesy of ScreamFestStudios.com. If you want to check them out, they do all these really cool like tombstones and stuff. They do a bunch of etching and stuff like that, but they had these great tombstones this last week when I was in at Fear Expo, and I picked up a couple. We've got H.H. Holmes here, and we've got a Ted Bundy one there. Check them out, man. ScreamFestStudios.com. Go and pick up some of their stuff. They got some good stuff out there. Check it out. All right. So tonight, we have somebody near and dear to my heart, and you guys can check this out. We got old cousin Charlie, Charles Manson, tonight on 5 Minute Murder. I'm going to hit start, and then I'm going to start reading this thing. All right. So Charles Manson was born on November 12th, 1934. Died on November 19th, 2017. He was an American criminal and cult leader. In mid-1967, he formed what became known as the Manson family. His followers committed a series of 9 murders in July and August 1969. Manson plotted to start a race war. In 1971, he was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of 7 people. Although Manson only ordered the murders, he served his life sentence at California State Prison, Cochran, and died at age 83 in late 2017. So, in the game, Manson is not the best card, right? He has lots of charisma and no brutality at all, right? And he has none for his victim type, like his specialty, because we don't know that Manson killed anybody. So it's always the big debate, right? You know, Manson, what was he? Well, he was obviously a cult leader, not a serial killer, but definitely somebody who had a lot of charisma and was able to get people to follow him and then kill for him, right? He did that. Of course, he did that aided by LSD and lots and lots of alcohol and drugs and keeping people up and getting them into very suggestible places so that they would listen to him and do what he wanted. So with that in mind, I got a great story about Manson. Those of you that know me have heard me tell it a million times, but for you guys, I'm going to give it to you. Now, my dad met Manson in the early 60s, right? So I grew up with these stories about Charles Manson. So when my dad met him, he actually met him in a park. And he actually met a couple of the girls first. None of the girls that were there at the final murders, but 2 of the girls that were part of the Manson family. And they came up to him and said, "Hey, you want to go and party?" And my dad said, "Sure, I'd love to do that. You guys got any drugs?" And they were like, "Yeah, but we got to ask Jesus." So they take my dad over to this park bench, and about that time, Manson's walking out of the hotel, and he has his guitar. He sits down, he starts strumming on it, and the girls go up to him. They introduce my dad to Manson, and they talk. Well, ultimately, what ends up happening is Manson forbids the girls to talk to my dad anymore and will not let him go to the party. Now, my dad is about 6'2", and at the time, about 220. Manson is all of 5'4" and 140 pounds and was definitely threatened by my dad. So he would not let him come. So my dad decides that since he knows where the party's going to be, him and his buddy are going to go back that night, and they're going to rob Manson of his drugs. Now, they went back that night, but they couldn't find the party. They went and were listening on the doors and trying to find where all the noise was coming from, and they could never find that party. So I grew up always calling Manson Cousin Charlie. It's just kind of how it was. Now, of course, my dad didn't know anything about Manson at the time. Several years later, the murders happen in 69. And then he sees it on the news and he says, "Holy shit, that's the guy we saw in the park." So they figure all this out. And of course, my dad grew up in that age. He was born in 1947. So he grew up in a very, very different place than we live now, completely different culture. And, my dad really kind of took to the ideals and the beliefs of Charles Manson. He would have probably been a really good family member if Manson would have not been intimidated by him and kind of pulled him in. So again, the interesting thing is those girls did not speak another word to my dad at all after that. So, the control that he had over the people around him was incredible. And like I said, a lot of that has to do with LSD, and a lot of that has to do with just the way that he talked to people and the suggestible situations that he put them in. He lived on Spawn Ranch. We talk about that, he had some connection with the Beach Boys, and, was really trying to break into music. And if you listen to his albums, they're not great. There's a couple songs in there that are okay, but really, he was never going to have any career. And so because of that, he turned against the establishment. All right, my time is up, but real quick before I end, because I can't stop right there. He did that and turned against everybody else and wanted to bring down the establishment. So in his mind, he could start that race war. And when, everything happened, they would go and hide in a cave, and the people would have to come to him and make him the king and the ruler of everyone. So crazy, crazy thoughts. But there you go. There's another 5-minute murder, all about Charles Manson and my little connection to Cousin Charlie. If you come to my booth at the different expos that I go to, if you come and see me there, I have one of Manson's guitar strings there. It's something, when it came available, I had to have it. So yeah, come and check it out. Come and see me, pick up the game, check out my show, Serial Killers Around the World, where we talk about some international serial killers on the Good Wives Network on Roku. So check that out too. Thank you guys for joining us. Now that it's over 7 minutes, almost 8, I'll talk to you guys soon.